What it do, golf fans? Welcome back to Turn Dollars Golf Podcast. This is Liam. Alongside me is Jack. Jack, we had a interesting week at the Truist. I mean, it was no cut, which sucks. Um, but Seb Straka, Joseph Giuseppe Seb Straka, pulled out the win. Definitely not top of mind, probably for a lot of golf bettors last week. But what'd you think of the week, and what'd you think of his win?
Oh, that was awesome. I Not my favorite tournament in the world, but I still love every minute of it. I think especially when it's competitive, which I've talked about many, many a times. I think one of the and granted, this is a very, very, very large scale. Sometimes these no cut events do make it more competitive, but I think in the grand scheme they make them less competitive. It is nice to see that someone isn't drastically running away from it.
Yeah.
And I think having Shane Lowry not fall apart being entertaining, but being competitive and having those spots to capitalize was competitive and fun. You had Justin Thomas shooting three under, Cantlay coming back at the end. But seeing Sepp Straka, who I still think is quietly having a top 3 year on the PGA Tour, all things considered. He's definitely having a better year than Scotty Scheffler. And if you think otherwise, you're just looking at recency bias.
Mhm.
Has just dominated. So it's really good for him, especially with a guy that had a future on him in this week's PGA Championship.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit tough because I'm sure somebody out there is going to be like, well, Seb Straka doesn't play as tough a field as Scotty, therefore it doesn't relay the same way. One field is easier than the other. Like I think Seb Straka was in like Mexico Open, so I'm sure somebody out there is going to nitpick your response there. But I agree, actually. I think top three, top maybe five if you want to get really technical on it. But yeah, top season right now on the PGA Tour. And definitely, I'd say surprise so far of the season in terms of his overall gameplay. You highlighted there was a lot of big names that played pretty well, all things considered, last week as well. Not just Sep. So I know like Rory, I think backdoor to top 10. Um, Xander might have been up there too. I didn't have much on him, but I think he was maybe T11-ish. So there were big names that were also in contention, not just him. But that, it overall makes for a really good tournament when somebody like Sepp Straka wins, in my opinion. I don't need to see Rory win every tournament. It's fun when he wins tournaments, but I like seeing this pitch up. And somebody like Sepp Straka to win tournaments makes it fun,
Yeah.
and more enjoyable. So, just some other notes for me. I have here notable guys who missed the cut. Technically, it was no cut event, but we still had two guys only play 2 rounds max. Justin Rose withdrew. And then Michael Kim also withdrew. And you highlighted he may have to get surgery.
On his back. That is what he had tweeted out in his report.
Yikes. Okay. As somebody that's gotten surgery on your back, that sounds awful. So let's hope that that's not the case, or that if it is the case, that it's quick, speedy recovery, and he gets back to the world of PGA Tour golf really quickly, because he was playing a pretty solid golf season up until maybe a month ago, and maybe that's when the injury started to kind of turn up.
Yeah.
Hopefully Michael Kim can get back into good form there. Other low priced options that we were all over. I highlighted Sepp Straka last week, who ended up winning. I didn't bet him or have as much into him as I wish I did now in retrospect. But I also like Daniel Berger, who finished T11, and those were kind of the main two. My misses, I thought Lucas Glover would do good last week. He finished T66. I thought Minwoo Lee could be interesting just because his driver might have been able to carry him there at Truist. It didn't at all. He finished T51. So live and learn. Not my best week in terms of information in general. Jack, how did your lineups do last week?
Spectacular, ladies and gentlemen. DraftKings, we scored 525 points, my worst guy being Sam Burns at 30th. Other than that, we had Cantlay at 4, Corey Connors at 11, Lowry at 2, Novak at 17, and Steven Yeager at 7th place. So crush it from all areas, my friend.
Yeah, that's like the third week in the last four, by the way. Sam Burns just finished top 30 and had over 7 strokes putting and then lost strokes on approach and off the tee.
Heck yeah.
So So just the most Sam Burns style ugly top 30 of all time. I'm jealous. Mine did not go quite that well. I had Rory T7, Daniel Berger T11, Minwoo T51, Brian Harmon T46, Michael Kim, who withdrew, and then Lucas Glover, who finished T66. So, not great. FanDuel?
Yeah, I pretty much did just the same. The only difference is I did have Justin Rose who withdrew. Other than that, I mean, I had 7, 32, 17, and 11, so I still made money in every stretch of the word. So I was very content.
Yeah, I didn't do great on this one either. I had Kim and Rosie, who both withdrew, and then a couple of the same guys, Xander, Rory, who both finished 7 and 11. And then like Glover and Alex Noren, who finished like 50 and 65. So pretty ugly, all things considered. Bets, how'd you do?
I had 6 bets, went 4 and 2, which was really good. Again, I bet very safe, so I do need to have these weeks where I have 4 wins. Came on top with just a little over half a unit up. I had Andrew Novak top 30, told you guys. I had Rosie top 30, thanks for the withdrawal. I had Shane Lowry top 30, Hideki top 30, and Cantlay top 20, which were really good. And then I had Spieth top 30, who finished 34. He looked good all week. He just wasn't capitalizing on any makes, so I have no qualms about that, my friend. So I think that brings me, if I go back to last week, half unit, I'm up 12.26 units on the, or 3.1 units on the year.
Yeah, 12.3. That makes sense. No, it's pretty good. On my end for the bets, I had four. I had two wins, two losses. My losses were Lucas Glover, top 30. Live and learn. That was not it at all. And then I had Rory top 20 in round one. I think he finished the end of round one at like T22 with like 13 or 14 other guys. So that stinks. But then my two wins, I had Daniel Berger top 20 at minus 105. That was a win. And then Seb Straka top 20 at plus 110. So that was a win. So overall, with the wins and losses, I gained 0.05 units on the week. So basically zero. It was a ugly week for me, and I gained and lost more or less zero, which is fine. So I'm up 19.69 units on the week or on the year. Nice. And overall, I'm about 20 units up for PGA, which is probably 20 units better than last year. So we'll take it. Wild card, how'd you do last week?
Oh, so close. I had Cantlay top 10 in round one. He finished 11th. He looked good through and through, much like Spieth. He just, and much like how I played Sunday when we played, just grazing the cup on so many putts. He could have capitalized. He could have shot like 62 if he really let at it. But he finished 11, which I'm not mad at for a plus 250. I mean, you guys know me. If I'm betting a wild card, that means I'm betting the next placement over. So I still made money at the end of the day, but for the wild card, it didn't.
Yeah. For my wild card, I had Jordan Spieth top 10 at plus 240. He finished T33 or whatever he was. So that was a loss. But again, that's why Jordan Spieth was a wild card and not a main pick because when you rely on him, he does stuff like this. We're just going to keep it PG, but this is what this is the Jordan Spieth I've always come to expect.
This
I
no, no, no. You barely watched. And let's point out, let's call a spade there. I watched a lot of Jordan Spieth this week, and he looked good. He just wasn't capitalizing. That's not him being bad.
That's typical Jordan Spieth though, looking good but not capitalizing on opportunities. Like that's on brand for him. It's just the inability to get the job done to get those top tens. I don't know. It just doesn't look pretty. That's why I'm very comfortable with the idea of not betting them. I know last week you said this was one of my mistakes on the year. No, I think not touching Jordan Spieth with a 50-foot pole is very much a good play on probably why I'm up 20 units. Because knowing the way that betting works, I'd pick him every week that he'd finish like T34 to finish T30. So I'm okay. I'm okay when he finishes top 10 because when the weeks he finishes 60th and everybody loses money on him, I don't lose that money. So I'm good with this, just throwing him in a wild card when he fits. Um, Speaking of winners, how'd your winners do this week?
They did
Past week?
fine. I had Cantlay who finished fourth. And again, once again, you guys know me. I put like $1 on winners, but anytime I bet a guy as a winner, I actually put money on him for top five because I don't think winners are profitable. But Cantlay 18-1, he finished fourth. Spieth, I had him at 34 and Burns at 30. I'll just run into there was a bunch of other events going on. There was the Myrtle Beach joke of a tournament. I had Henrik Norlander 50-1. He missed a cut. I bet two on the LPGA Tour. One finished 15th and one actually won. So if you took my bets from last week, you're welcome. Gino Thinnacol was 9-1. And then on the International Series for Japan, I had Junichiro Kuzuma at 22-1, and he finished seventh. So yeah, I got one winner out of the week.
There you go. I want to say Foxy won on the
Correct. Chip in.
he chipped into Lancia. I didn't even
Mhm.
notice that. That's funny. On my winners for Myrtle Beach, I took Davis Riley. He missed the cut. It's whatever. For Truist slash Wells Fargo, Xander Schauffele, who finished T11, Harmon, who finished T46, and then Eric Cole, who finished T34. So not my best week in general. If you can't tell, this is probably one of the worst weeks I've had in the last like 6 or 7 weeks, just based on cumulative betting of everything. So it's fine. We're on to the PGA Championship. This is an event I
Thank
like a
God.
lot. Yeah, we're through Truist. Thank you. So we're at the PGA Championship. This is at Quail Hollow, which I think is where the Truist usually is. This is a par 71 totaling 7,550 yards. Just some quick stats to roll through. PGA Championship courses are pretty hard to kind of chase on. 12 of the last 14 winners have been in the top seven after round two. So if you're a type of person that likes to bet by round, by the end of round two, you could probably pick one of your winners. As far as strokes gained, off the tee is going to be a major factor this week. It's the highest correlated metric to the winner of any course on tour this year, and and it also highly correlates to a top 10 finish at Quail Hollow. Only one player in the last 2 seasons has finished in the top 10 here after losing strokes gained off the tee. So you basically have to gain off the tee in order to have a chance to play well here. 9 of the last 13 winners had at least one top five finish in a previous PGA championship. So you do need to have a little bit of success. 10 of the last 12 winners have had at least six PGA championship appearances. So rookies don't tend to do all that great here, at least as far as winning goes. And lastly, you have to dominate the par fives to win this event. 70% of all winners here at Quail Hollow ranked inside the top 10 in strokes gained par five heading into the event. So again, it's distance heavy. It's this driving distance. I mean, nobody's going to complain if you got the accuracy to go alongside it. But then you also got to be able to score on par fives and avoid those bogeys when you can. So cool. With that, Jack, are you ready to go through the DraftKings pricing?
Very much so, my friend.
All right, we're going to start on top. Let's loop all of these guys 10K and above together. So we have Scotty Scheffler at 13,400 down to John Rahm at 10,200.
Well, let me just say we got Rory McIlroy in here, and he's the Quail Hollow GOAT. No denying that. There is literally no other conversation you can physically have at Quail Hollow. He's won four times, including twice here in the major renovation. So one thing I would say for all the bettors out there, don't look at data from 2016 and before because the course is set up nothing like how it was. So look at 2017 and on at Quail Hollow, and that includes your Wells Fargo data, including that he's won two of his last three times here. So guy is pretty much a machine. His average finishing placement since the renovation is 15.8. He's gained 58.58 strokes gained total with a strokes gained average per round of 2.44, which is just absolutely bonkers. The only place he's really been struggling, he has 0.24 strokes gained per round career at the Quail Hollow putting. He has looked spectacular with the flat stick this year. And guess what? Since the renovation, his just crazy with the ball striking, and he's looked even better this year. He already has seven top tens and nine starts on the year with two wins in his last few starts here. I can't say too much about Rory McIlroy that the world doesn't know, but my goodness, is he going to be so heavily owned, so heavily targeted. But alongside that, you also have Scotty Scheffler in this category, who I've said stats are different than the eye test. Scotty Scheffler finally looks great. It finally took some time. He has a win, a second, a fourth, and an eighth in his last four starts. Um, this will be his first time at Quail Hollow, which will be really interesting. But traditionally, this is a ball striker paradise course. It's about the renovation since 17.
Well, he
It'll
he played the President's Cup here in 2022, technically.
I don't count that.
I know,
You
it's
can't have him
gimmicky. That's
strokes
why there's
gain
an
it.
asterisk. Yeah.
Um, but he's got seven top tens in his last nine starts, and also, or sorry, four top tens in his last five PGA Tour starts, and excluding the Masters, has only two rounds in the 70s since his last start. So this guy is on fire. Ball striker's paradise. Those two guys are going to be really good. But on top of that, I think that it's really going to be. I know you're going to touch on Bryson, so I'll leave it to you. But I think this could be a very sneaky week for Xander Schauffele. Xander Schauffele has this injury umbrella holding over him, and he came out very, very slow. And I think people, especially the gambling community, which are notoriously D-bags, if you ask me, just go, oh, he's done, he's washed, he's terrible, whatever the situation is. He's been very quiet. So since the players, he has 11, 18, 12, and 8 finish. His distance measurement has looked spectacular since that injury or kind of a gap. In his last six PGA starts, he's got a win, five other top 20s, and only one missed cut. So if you're taking a look at historically, even at Quail Hollow in his last three starts, it's 2, 2, and 14. This guy is a ball striker at heart. He's so consistent. I say he's the most consistent player in the entire game, like entire game, bubbled up into one. He's the most consistent player. I love those three guys, and I'm only waiting because I know you got Bryson stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'll highlight some of the stuff you went over with Scotty and Rory. I agree on almost all facets. Scotty's got plenty of distance, and as far as off the tee, he's got great off the tee success. So he'll be good here. Again, he technically played here one time, 2022, but isn't there a lot of like data behind the scenes? There's no strokes gain data or any of that. Just like any other week, Scotty's going to be valid, in my opinion, to go to if you can deal with the fact that he's like $1,200 more expensive than everybody else. I think he's going to do well. I don't blame you for going for him. Otherwise, I think you can go to cheaper options. I think he's going to do well. He'll probably finish top 10, but Rory's $1,200 cheaper. And again, we've stated before, this is Rory's course. This will be his first time competing after the Grand Slam, which is also just again a mental thing to note. He also first major won in 10 years. Another mental note he's going to not have to worry about. And again, you highlighted all the courses and all the players in the PGA and all the other tours for the past 10 years. No player is more correlated to success at a course than Rory is here at Quail. In 32 rounds here, since I'm going back to 2014, he averages 1.36 strokes gained off the tee per round, 2.19 strokes gained ball striking, and over 2.5 strokes gained tee to green here at Quail Hollow. Yeah, his putters is one weakness. He only gains like 2/3 of a stroke around. But he beats everybody at every other course. On the list that I found, John Rahm is second, and that's at Torrey Pines. So since 2012, again going pre change, he's finished no worse than 10th here, um, outside of two times, and that's 11 starts.
Who?
I'll, what's up,
Who?
Rory?
Rory has three top 10 or top tens or worse in his last six starts here. He's got 47th here in 2023, 16 at 2018, and 22 in 2017.
Maybe I meant to hit top 20 here. So I don't know. I might have misclicked the number then. My fault. Uh, all right, Bryson DeChambeau.
Regardless, that's still freaking crazy.
Yeah, he's still crazy correlated to this course. I might have misclicked the button and hit the one instead of the two. Bryson DeChambeau, he actually shares a lot of the same benefits of Rory without all of the course history. He's gained at least 4.5 strokes gained off the tee in each of his last 8 starts. 3 of those starts being 7+ strokes gained off the tee. Bear in mind that that's live data I'm talking about there. So he's gaining 7+ strokes off the tee in 3 rounds. So add an extra round, and he could be talking 9 or 10 strokes gained off the tee. He's going to have a really, really high floor because of this. He's going to make the cut this week. So, last thing, in his last 5 majors, he's got 4 top 6 finishes. So he's in great form. He's got no problems playing well. I think this is a spectacular course that Bryson can succeed in. I'll mention two of the other guys here on the bottom. You have Ludwig Aubert in his last five starts. Ludwig has lost on approach and putting in four of them. He's not in the greatest form of all time, and in theory, he has a good chance to pop off here and finish top 10. He did so at the Masters, so it's not out of the question. But given the fact that he's in rough recent form, it's probably not worth taking at 10,800. He would likely have to be your most expensive golfer, and that's just not something that I think is super practical. I would rather go the $100 cheaper for Xander, even with the injury like six or seven starts previously. John Rahm, he's kind of stunk it up on majors since he moved to Live. He's got two top 10 finishes and then three finishes outside of T40, two of which I think were missed cuts. He's lost on approach in three of his last four majors. He just doesn't look and feel the same. I mean, again, he might pop off, he might finish it, but he's going to probably be your first, maybe second golfer if you go real crazy. I don't think he's worth really relying on by any means. And then Colin Morikawa, I'm worried that this course might actually be a little long for him. He's going to be challenged with, again, not having all the distance in the world. It's going to lead to overswing some bad shots. And he's lost around the green and putting in each of his last four starts. And he only gains about half a stroke total off the tee, comparatively to a lot of the rest of the players in this range. So he's going to have a lot to overcome just basically solely on approach this week in order to contend. Cool. Do you have a top three in this range? Is it kind of three guys you mentioned?
Well, it depends. Is it my top three based on who I think is going to win, or top three based on DFS pricing?
I mean, you could do a top three for each.
Top three, I think, have a chance to win is probably the three guys that you see in order. It's Scotty, Rory, and Bryson. I think it's probably Rory number one, Scotty number two, and Bryson number three. I think I only spent a second, but like Rory McIlroy is the GOAT here. Like, there's not many courses outside of like Tiger Woods that you can really say someone is the GOAT of a track.
Yeah.
And as to your point, he's done everything. He's playing free, seventh at the Truist. Last week with a bunch of runs in the 60s. He looks incredible. I think he's going to have a lot of mental confidence and have these spots where he can kind of go for it. Especially, and I think that the rough is supposed to get to like 4.25 inches by Sunday. I think the accuracy that we've seen too is going to be a real marker for him. Same with Scotty. Scotty's just a ball striker times a million. He is arguably a top five ball striker in golf history. And you know how much that pains me to say because he's still new, which is wild for everybody that's new here. He's still a newer golfer in the P tier, the pro scene. So everybody take a gander with that. I think he just needs to really hone in on the putting because that's always been a lack of his. But I think ball striking will carry him. And Bryson, which is actually wild to say, has not had a great last 12 months in approach play.
Yeah.
It's just a point blank. He finished fifth at the Masters and lost 0.71 shots around. He finished second in Mexico, lost half a shot around on approach. Everything is going to come down for him with the driver. If he's accurate, which in his last 10 starts, he has been above average in seven of them. He lost 17% on the accuracy marker in Chicago, where he finished sixth. So off the tee is going to make or break for Bryson. And I think that if the course conditions stay wet, I think it
What
actually favors him because of the way he hits the golf ball and the way it's a little more penetrating and that drive, he can actually attack a little bit more flags. But I think that will actually be a factor for him.
keep that Jack kind of highlighted that. Keep an eye on the weather this week. It is projected that there's gonna be some rain to some extent that will maybe not directly affect play, but it will have a an effect on course conditions to say the least. It will be a thought process going through some of the golfers' heads. And so that is why driving distance, I think, is also important. And if it comes into play as heavily as it might, I think Rory and Bryson are going to potentially mollywop the rest of this field. And it's going to be a two man race to see who gets it.
Which should be
Uh,
fun. Another major of Rory Bryson. I wouldn't be mad at that.
yeah, I'm not mad at it either. Trust me. I hope it kind of goes down that way. All right, let's get into the 9K range here. We've got Justin Thomas at 9,900 down to Terrell Hatton at 9,000.
Yeah, I mean,
You
I'll
like,
start with Justin Thomas right off the bat. Justin Thomas, obviously a PGA champion in the past, and has also found pretty good success at Quail Hollow, 21, 14, 26, 22, and 1 in 2017 with an average finishing placement of 16.6. His also last four starts in the PGA Tour is going to win, two runner-ups, and then a 36th place finish. He's finished top 30 at Quail Hollow 100% of the time since the renovations have happened. So if you're looking at a guy at 9,900, if I guaranteed you a 26th place finish, you'd take that 10 out of 10 times. Now, again, in the betting scene, we'd like it to be more, but that's the reality of the situation we're at. What really holds me and what really concerns me with Justin Thomas, and I think you will agree, is the accuracy off the tee. Now, I will say that in the last couple starts, so we take a look basically from, let's call it waste management on, he's actually gained accuracy in 50% of them off the driver. So it is really crazy to think because that's one of the things that RBC Heritage, when he won, it was a big what if, what is he going to do when it comes into it? And then even last week at the Truist, I mean, I think you even mentioned it is, yeah, he did it for 1 week, but can he do it for another? And he gained three-quarters of a shot off the tee in the entire tournament, which is a really big stepping stone for him. But
yep.
most importantly, his approach play, he gained 1.26, 1.57 adjacently for each tournament each day. So I think that was really, really good for him, especially to follow up a win with that and coming into a major. I think this could be a really good stepping spot for him. But I also really, 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 really like Shane Lowry this week. Now, Shane Lowry, I will say, has not dominated at Quail Hollow in the past, and I will say that flat out. But he's got seven top 20 starts, or seven top 20 finishes in his last eight starts. And he's weakest spot at Quail Hollow has been the putter. Like he is fine everywhere, but that putter is like you're talking Liam level putting on some of these cases.
All
Just kidding.
right. Yeah, I
Just
was just
kidding.
say shots fired, but that's fair.
Just kidding. But his putter has gained in 50% or greater or excuse me, in 75% of the tournaments that he's played in this year. So I think the putter is really working for him. And I think, again, much like I said about Bryson, if the weather holds a little bit moist, he has one of those ball flights and attack angles into the green that I think really could suffice him this week.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't love a ton of guys in this range. I'm gonna be straight up with you. Well, the one guy I do really like, you mentioned it, Justin Thomas. He's quite possibly like fully reinvented himself. If you think about it, last year he was. I mean, him and Ricky Fowler were having like the same discussion last year, and now in the PGA Championship this year, they're what $3,500 apart in terms of price.
Mhm.
So he's really back to his winning ways. He's got three runner-up finishes so far here in 2025. He's got great form. You're right. He only gains off the tee about half the time. But if you look at all of his other stats, he's only lost strokes putting two times this year, and that's it. Everything else is green. He gains around the green. He gains on approach. He gains putting outside of those two times he missed. And again, he won here in Quail Hollow in 2017 when it was a PGA Championship. So I love the idea of going back to JT. He might not win this week, but I could easily see a top 20. I will also mention Joaquin Niemann. He's been great for the better part of the last 2 years. I don't know if this is the spot for him. This is kind of technical, but he's got one of the lowest launch angles of anybody on the PGA/Live or anything else. To be successful on a potentially wet course, you're going to want somebody with a higher ball flight. It's low ball flight, not going to have a lot of rollout. I think the best case scenario is a top 20 here, but also keep in mind in his entire major career, he's had one top 20 finish. We talk of Joaquin Niemann like he is a perennial top 20 finisher on majors. He's got one top 20 finish I saw, and it was the Masters in 2023.
He's a top
So,
20 player in the world. I will die on that.
oh, he is. I'm not saying he's not a top 20 player, but for whatever reason on majors, he does not finish top 20 for whatever reason. He just doesn't seem to get the job done on that setup.
Yeah.
I don't hate the idea of Cantlay or Matsuyama. I mean Cantlay, you gotta get 4 rounds out of him, which is concerning. So he might be contending after three and then shoot, you know, two over and finish T20.
It's funny. I was looking at Patrick Cantlay this week, and I didn't get to him. Now, obviously, am I probably going to put some money on him eventually on the back end? 100%. He actually gains on distance in every event he's played. It really shocked me on the terms of it. I think he's really interesting, but I'm also in the corner of going Hideki this week.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, again, Cantlay, he's got to piece together that fourth round. He still doesn't put together four good ones. And Hideki's always been a good golfer. It's just a question of whether he tees it up on the first hole and makes it through four rounds. If he does it this week again, he's a viable option. I feel like I say this most weeks about Hideki. If he makes it to the first tee, he's gonna play decent and finish like at least
Mhm.
T30. But you just never know what sort of lingering Hideki issues are out there. And therefore, that is the concern for me.
Yeah.
So I think JT's probably first for me, and then I would do some combination of Cantlay or Matsuyama, but I'm not going to BS you guys. It's JT 50 feet of crap, and then everybody else in this range for
Well,
me.
hold on now. I will say a couple things about Hideki. He's actually played really well at Quail Hollow. He's got a fifth place finish, 31st otherwise, and then he barely made the cut in another event. But in the calendar event of 2025, he has top 40 finish in 8 of 11 starts, and he's been playing really well otherwise. He's struggling with the putter all year, but he's gained the putter on historically on tournament by tournament basis the most at the PGA Championship. So he can step up, but I think one guy that everybody's really not looking at is Tommy Fleetwood this week. I say that Tommy Fleetwood, his last three starts at Quail Hollow have been 13, 5, and 14. And outside of the Valero, he has hit top 25 in every event since the Open Championship in 2024. What? That's ridiculous. So I think that is going to be a really sneaky play. I think a lot of people are undervaluing Tommy Fleetwood this week, just because the last time they really saw him dominate was the Truist, and outside of that, top 10 at RBC. But that leaderboard was so scattered. And then the Masters, I think everyone's way too involved in Tommy that I think they kind of turned him off a little bit. So I think he's going to be a really sneaky play, especially at that price. The last thing I'll say, my God, if no one is cheering for Jordan Spieth to get a career Grand Slam, if we could have two career Grand Slams in two majors, that's it. I mean,
Yeah.
Liam, I know he's a Jordan Spieth hater because he's gonna
Yep.
try to win $3, but the world is rooting for Jordan Spieth this week. I don't care if you
No,
have
I
money on him.
I hope Jordan Spieth wins, and I will be rooting for him. I will just not have any bets or DFS or anything else associated with Jordan Spieth. And I agree. I think I felt a little burned on Fleetwood at the Masters, which is maybe why I'm a little cooler on him here. But again, based on his finishes, I understand why you'd want to get to him. So that's fair. So, all right, 8K range we go. We got Russell Henley at 8,900 down to Seb Straka, last week's winner at 8,000.
Yeah, real quick, Patrick Reed. And now, listen, everybody, best short game I've ever seen. I will say that. People will try to put Sevy up there. Sevy made a lot of mistakes because he tried to go for the hero shot. Everybody says Phil Mickelson. You really look at his around the green play, has not been good around his career. He just makes a lot of highlights, and I think that's what a lot of people go to. Patrick Reed might be the greatest short game player of all time, but in his last 7 starts, he has um, 5 top 10s, an additional top 20, and an additional top 30. That includes the Masters. And at Quail Hollow, his last four since the renovation. 6, 28, 8, and 28. This guy is so good. He's actually ranking higher in distance measures than before, which is kind of crazy considering he's getting older and playing less. But he has looked really, really good. Already 6 top 10s on the year. Fourth last week at Live Golf. I think he's going to come out firing this week. I think this is a spot he looks really familiar at. I really, really like him included in that. I also really want to take a moment, just real quick and talk two guys. I'm not even going to go into stats that much. It's Akshay Bhatia and Sepp Straka. Sepp Straka is crushing it on the PGA Tour outside of literally 1 week. I don't remember what his pricing is. What's Sam or Sepp's price?
8,000.
8,000 flat. Yeah. So if we take a look, let me just pull up real quick his finishes. 113. Oh, good. He had a 67 at the Masters. But before that, 28, 14, 5, 11. This guy has been the consistent measure all across the board. I have no concerns, especially after him winning last week. Akshay Bhatia is one of the most pure ball strikers I've ever seen. His game is not yet super well rounded, where he's still making those mistakes. If he can keep it on the accuracy measures, I think he has a really sneaky week. And I know you have probably some stats you're going to touch on. But I think Akshay Bhatia is a really sneaky play this week. I think a lot of people are sleeping on him.
Yeah, I don't have a ton on Akshay. You're right. He just kind of will lay low in the weeds, but he's got good form, all things considered. I mean, he gains off the tee, he gains on approach, his putter's inconsistent, but like that's 95% of golfers, I feel like, in this range. So I don't
Oh,
hate the
sorry.
idea.
Akshay is 7K. My bad.
I was gonna say, I was like, I didn't see him in here, but we can go into him. That's fine. We can loop him in. He could have been 8K and I wouldn't have been surprised. All right, I'll start with Jason Day. He's kind of Rory-esque light when it comes to his record here at Quail Hollow. He's got four top 10 finishes in his last seven starts. He's never lost off the tee here at Quail Hollow. He's also gained with the putter in six of his last seven starts here. His form is solid. I think he's a viable option to go into
Time
this
out.
range.
Jason Day
Jason Day.
at Quail Hollow.
Yeah, he's good at Quail Hollow.
He's missed two of his last three cuts here.
Well, what's his record in his last seven starts? Does he have four top tens?
In his last, I only have data to six. It's four miscut, 24 win nine.
All right, let me pull it up. One second.
So you may, I mean, maybe you're including previous, but I'm only looking at 17 just because that renovation is so major. It's not the same course.
Yeah, no, all right. I'm looking at all of his Quail Hollow data, not just any specific tournament too. So that's probably part of it. Because Quail Hollow is also included on again all of the additional events. I'll dig it up. Hold on. I'll do that while you're talking the 7K range. I will also mention are Sung J M and Minwoo, are they in this range or am I already dipping into seven? No, they're in this range. All right. Um, I think they're both unable to hit approach shots to save their lives this week. They've both lost on approach in each of their last five starts. Sungjae's lost on approach in 11 of his last 12. A lot of people like Sungjae this week because he's got decent off the tee play, but if the guy can't hit an iron shot to save his life, I don't think the raw talent of being able to hit an off tee shot will save him from losing six strokes on approach. And Minwoo again doesn't have the consistency. I don't know why he's 8,600. I think that is horrible misprice on his setup. So, 7K range we go. Well, I pull up Jason Day's data. We have Foxy at 7,900 down to Thomas Dietrich.
Well, I kind of already talked about the guy in Akshay Bhatia that I enjoyed. One guy that I will say is if you are in some major money pools, you may see some sprinkling on Max Homa. Max Homa has a win at Quail Hollow, two other top tens. His average finishing placement at Quail Hollow is 29.3 with a missed cut. Um, in it, he finished 12th at the Masters, 30th at the Truist. He looked good. I'm not vouching for him, um, but you're probably going to see a lot of major money come through or on these major pools. Probably a sprinkling of money on Max Homa. Now, I think Sam Burns is also an interesting play, not because I think he's going to be the best ball striker in the world, because that's certainly not the case. But anybody that's coming into a week of a major gaining 7+ strokes of the putter on multiple consecutive weeks, I think you have to throw a flyer on. And I'm not saying like a winner or a top 10 or heck, even a top 20. But if I'm talking 7,500 is my made cut threshold, you really sneak it to 7,700. I don't think it's unreasonable, especially the last time he played here, he finished 13th. So I think it's an interesting play. Do I think he's going to win? No. But I think those are the only really thing I have on 7K because it's just a weird range. And I think you're also going to see a lot of money come through on Cam Young.
Oh, Cam Young, good luck. Have fun. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a fun one. I did find the Jason Day stat, by the way. So 2014 Wells Fargo at Truist, T4, 2023 miscut, 2022 T15, didn't include that one. 2021 miscut, 2019 I have him as T11, 2018 Wells Fargo first, 2017 PGA Championship, which is the seventh one, seventh place. So I have those as four of his last seven top 11 finishes.
Yeah, so the only data I have is through 17. I don't have anything from 16 or prior just because the course is so different.
Got it. Yeah. So you're right. He wasn't top 10. It was T11. My bad. So four of his last seven, he was T11 or better. But again, he's got those pop offs here to have a chance. In the 7K range, I don't know if you talked about Daniel Berger.
Nope.
No, thank God. Despite the 3.5 strokes, he actually lost with the putter during the Truist on Thursday. He still finished T11. He really kind of crawled his way back in. Kept the ball in play, grinded through the week. It wasn't pretty, but it was effective. It was actually pretty impressive, all things considered. But if you look at his strokes gained tee to green in 2025, Daniel Berger has the same amount of strokes gained tee to green as Patrick Cantlay, and they're like $1,700 apart. So for him being 7,900 feels like a steal. If you would have put him at the high eights, I would have understood the price point. So I think he's a great option at 7,900. I will mention Tony Finau's in this range, right?
Hmm.
So I'll give you a bit of a spoiler. I picked him as a pre-year pick here, so I probably have a little bias. But he's gained off the tee in each of his last 8 starts. He's also played here at Quail Hollow 10 times. He's got 4 top 30 finishes. He is going to be a risky play because his putter is very inconsistent. But he's one of the few guys in this range that if he finished top 20 this week, I would not be surprised. I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. That checks out for him. So those are a few of the major guys I like in this range. There's a lot of lesser names. I know you mentioned Cam Young, but his approach play and his driving play are great. But if you can't putt, then that's really concerning. So I don't know if I can rely on him. So anybody else in this range or 6Ks?
Let's do it.
All right. Adam Scott, 6,900 down to Jacob Bridger.
Let me tell you, one guy that each and every one of you need to consider this week is the GOAT, Keith Mitchell. Now, I'm not just saying that because we all love him. This guy, let me just give you some stats real quick here. Since the renovation, his stats at Quail Hollow have been 34, 8, 3, and 59. So he's played really well here historically. Inside of his last 5 starts, 18, 12, 2, 18, and 7. He's gained on the distance marker in every single event in his last 25, outside of the Worldwide Technology Championship, where he lost point 3 on the distance measure. Every outside of that, he has been incredibly distance oriented. On top of that, he has gained with the putter in 4 of his last 5. He's gained on approach in 5 of his last 5. Strokes gained total in like 11 of his last 12. This guy is really coming into form. And I think with the driver, he can, especially if it's wet, can bomb it because his accuracy numbers have steadily improved because historically he was a bomber that was just wildly inconsistent. Now Keith Mitchell is starting to be more accurate, more accurate, more accurate. And if he can continue those off the tee numbers, in addition with his approach, which is averaging about 1 shot around, 6,200 is a wild price for this guy. I think it's such a steal. It's an absolutely disgusting line, and I think he can hit it. Outside of that, you have I think Nicholas Norgard is in here, who ranks #1 on driving distance on the PGA Tour. You have Andrew
He's
Novak.
5K.
What?
Norgard's 5K.
Wait on that. You have Andrew Novak here, who's a bomber, who's got 3 top 20s in his last 3 starts, runner up third and 17th, who I think is going to be really good. You have a bunch of guys in this category I think you can target. Steven Yeager is an interesting one. Rico Hoey, who ranks #1 in total driving on the PGA Tour. Kevin Yu, who ranks #2. Just a bunch of random collection of guys here that I think really could surpass expectations. This is where you're going to make your money, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, Jack highlighted a few guys I liked. I'll mention Dean Burmeister. Jack's not as high on him, but he does mash the golf
Well, hold
ball.
on. You can give your stats, but let me just preface what I said to you, which is hilarious. They asked him in the pre-interview, "What's your experience with Quail Hollow? Have you ever played it?" And he goes, No, I've actually never seen it outside of my PlayStation." That is a real quote. That is the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life.
It's valid. I get it. Yeah, I haven't seen a majority of the PGA Tour courses either. I'd love to eventually go out there and say, yeah, I've only ever seen this on my PlayStation. It's great. But no, he does crush the golf ball. He's gained off the tee in 7 of his 8 measured starts in 2025. Putter's a bit inconsistent, but again, so is Tony's that I mentioned in the 7K range. He's got great skill set, and honestly, I like him over a majority of the guys in the 7K range. You mentioned Rico Hoey or Richard. Does he go by Richard Hoey now? Is that what I saw?
Rico.
No, I saw Richard as his preferred name. I'm like, why are you Richard Hoey? You're Rico Hoey. Like, come on, bro. His skill set is basically driving the crap out of the golf ball. That was a quote that I saw there. He's lost strokes gained off the tee just one time in all of 2025. His weakness is his putter, but it's because it's even less consistent than Dean Burmeister's. Or yeah, I think that him and Keith Mitchell are probably the two options in this low 6K range with a genuine chance of possibly making the cut here, just based on off the tee game alone. Depending on whether you like Rico versus Keith more, I'd probably go Keith just based on his normal performances on a week-to-week PGA Tour champion like tournament. But I don't hate Hoey if you want to be different. And then I'll mention Novak, who you mentioned. He's got like 4 top 20 finishes in each of his last 4 starts, like including a T3 where he lost in the playoff with the RBC Heritage, the win at Zurich, which is an asterisk because it's a shitty course and tournament style. But then he followed up with a T17 last week at the Truist. So I think Novak will be an interesting option. There's not a lot of major history from him. This will be his first PGA. But at 6,600, he could be an interesting choice. So cool. Into the 5K range we go, where you're going to talk about the only guy I like in this range. Let's
And
see. Let's see who's
yeah, I was
at
gonna
the
say I have
top.
a couple
Sorry.
I actually like. So
Lucas Glover's at 5,900. Sean McKeel. Is he 5,000? Probably.
yeah. So number
Sweet.
one, Sammy Valimaki. I genuinely think he is an interesting play this week. He has top 40 in 6 of his last 7 starts. Guess what? The only one he missed, Zurich Classic, my friend. He was paired with Ben Silverman. Yeah, they weren't doing that. Outside of that, this guy's a true bomber of the ball. He's done really well with strokes gained all across the board. He's very consistent. He doesn't have a ton of major experience, so that's probably why he's so low. But if you're giving me a guy who's finished top 40 in 6 of his last 6 stroke play starts, I'm taking that at 50, whatever 100 that is. Also included that is Eugenio Lopez Chicara. He is one of the best, if not the best, amateur golfer in probably the last decade. You could make an argument for a couple other guys, but they signed him from Live right away from ASU. Um, Ever since kind of getting cut from Live, I don't know if leave is the right word. He's been playing on the Asian DP World Tour. His last, let's call it 7 starts have been 11, 4, win, 20, 5, 6, 5, 14, gaining strokes in every single one, and is an average of 12.8 percentage markers greater than the field on the distance measurement off the tee. This guy is a sneaky play this week. I think those are 2 guys you can probably fit in your lineup that no one is thinking about this week.
Yeah. I'll mention the guy who Jack probably likes even more than I do, but Nicholas Norgard. He's going to pull up on DraftKings as Nicholas Norgard Moeller, the German. But he's one of the best drivers of golf ball. He hits it basically as far as just about anybody else. He's gained at least 2 strokes gained off the tee in 6 of his last 7 measured starts. He just finished T5 at Myrtle Beach. Also finished T30 at the Byron Nelson, which again, Myrtle Beach maybe not as legitimate, but Byron Nelson had some bigger names. And he beat all the guys that he should have beat. So I like him over pretty much anybody else in this range, including Phil, who can barely make a cut on live, let alone a major right now. And I think Michael Block is $100 more expensive than him on DraftKings, which again, the story is great if you follow 2 years ago his story on the PGA Championship. But let's just say it's going to be extremely difficult for him to make the cut. I hope he does. I hope he crushes it. I hope we see like a PGA Tour or a PGA Club Champion like go far, but I don't know if we will. I want to shout out Sean McKeel, who I mentioned earlier. He's actually 5,100. I have played like with him on the driving. Like he basically was giving me a coaching session one time on a driving range when I was 16 and lied and said I had a really good golf swing. So I appreciate. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. 16-year-old Liam needed to hear that he had a really good golf swing from a
I knew
he
16-year-old Liam. He did not have a good.
no, 16-year-old Liam's golf swing was dog water. It was ugly. But shout out to him for lying and telling me that I could be decent at golf one day. So no, that's really it for me, Jack. Anybody else here? Or are we going right into DraftKings and lineups?
Let's go into DraftKings lineups, my friend. I'm adding one more bet because it's the bet of the year.
Oh, is it that one I just saw? Oh no, okay, you're just adding stuff in as we go. All right, I'll go first. We'll switch it up. For my DraftKings lineup, I went interesting. I went Bryson DeChambeau at 11,500, Justin Thomas at 9,900, Patrick Reed at 8,100, Daniel Berger at 7,900, Dean Burmeister at 6,900, and then Nicholas Norgard Moeller at 5,400.
Yeah, my DraftKings, I have Xander Schauffele 10,700, Colin Morikawa 10,400. I agree with Liam's perspective earlier that the course may be a little long for him, but we've talked about for years and years and years this guy is one of the best iron players in the world, and if he could just even be above average, he'll be fine.
Yep,
Patrick Reed 8,100, Sepp Straka 8,000, Akshay Bhatia 7,300, and Sammy Valimaki 5,500.
there you go. For my FanDuel, similar lineup, a lot of similar names. Rory McIlroy, 12,700. Bryson DeChambeau was like the seventh most expensive guy on FanDuel. That made no sense to me. At 11,400, so he's second. Justin Thomas, 10,600. Daniel Berger, 8,900. Andrew Novak, 8,300, and then Nicholas Norgard Muller at 8,100.
Yeah, my FanDuel, I did bite the bullet on Scotty 12,500 because there wasn't that much disparity in FanDuel. And I agree with Liam on Bryson. That's where I took him at 11,400. Under that, I have Xander Schauffele at 11,300. I have Patrick Reed 9,200, Keith Mitchell at 8,500, and Sammy Valimaki at 7,100.
There you go. Now, Jack, you have like 20 bets, and I
Correct.
will I will do one of those things where I screenshot it here so that way everybody can see the bets, and then you can skip ahead like 3 minutes as he highlights some of his major ones. Don't I guess you can go through them all if you want, but be quick. We don't need the synopsis behind
I'll
each
only give the
one.
synopsis on those that need it that I didn't touch on earlier. But number one,
Perfect.
Rory top 10, minus 160 is the go to Quail Hollow. Number two, Scotty Scheffler top 10 is minus 150. He's incredible. He's the best ball striker in the world right now.
Yeah.
Justin Thomas, top 30, minus 180, has done really well at Quail Hollow. Patrick Reed, top 40, minus 105, has done spectacular at Quail Hollow. Xander, top 30, is minus 175. You're giving me over half a unit for a guy that's the most consistent player. I love it. Tommy Fleetwood, top 40, is minus 170. Shane Lowry, top 40, is minus 143. Hideki, top 40, is minus 143. Keith Mitchell, top 40, is plus 155. I absolutely love it. Colin Morikawa being better than Ludwig Aubert is minus 130. Outside of the Zurich Classic, Colin Morikawa has seven top 20s in nine events, and Ludwig only has one top 10 in six events. And since his win, he's lost putting in four of his last six, lost around the green in three, approaching four in total in three. So I'm taking the hot hand. Xander Schauffele top 20 in round one is plus 200. Scotty Scheffler top 20 in round one is plus 110. Sepp Straka top 40 is minus 120. Bryson being 11th or better is minus 110. Sam Burns to make the cut is minus 185. Akshay Bhatia to make the cut is minus 180. Keith Mitchell to make the cut is minus 175. Sammy Valimaki to make the cut is plus 105. And three bets that I literally am betting my mortgage on. Number one, Nick Dunlap to miss the cut. He might be the worst professional golfer in the world right now. I genuinely think I could take him on a head to head. That is not a joke. Let me just pull up his stats real quick because I know we're rushed for time, but I was very quick. He has missed the cut in every event that hasn't been a forced cut. He's let's just put it this way: he's missed cuts in four of his last six, and the two he made were 69 and 71. He
Yep.
lost seven shots around at the Masters, and whatever. I digress.
Yeah.
Next on top of that is Michael Block and Nick Dunlap to miss the cut. Michael Block has missed since his PGA miracle. has made the cut in one event in those last 9 starts, and that was over in Europe, where he still lost half a shot around. So we're putting it this way. The event that he followed up his PGA Tour miracle in, he lost 7.11 shots on average. In his last start, which was in England, he lost 6.41 shots on average compared to the field.
All
No.
all I'm hearing is Nick Dunlap's winning, Michael Block's finishing second place.
Yeah, great. And bet the hammer on this one. Um, Mike, or excuse me, Jason Duffner and Nick Dunlap to miss the cut. Nick Dunlap has looked like he's playing ping pong right now. Jason Duffner, let me just read his last little bit of starts. Ready? Cut, P75, cut. Did not qualify for a live promotional event. Cut.
Hey, that's a lot of really good finishes. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and it's good. Let me just read his last 4 PGA starts. Cut. Oh, that's 5. Cut, 6, cut. Wells Fargo, cut, T43. That's plus money, ladies and gentlemen. Did I say that?
Go golf betting. So, all right, Jack's got his 20. Hopefully you saw him there on the screen. My golf bets are going to be significantly quicker than this. I have 6. I'm very comfortable with the 6 I have. And I think Jack and I might have one crossover bet, and it's Scotty Scheffler top 10. So if we can't squad ride a Scotty Scheffler bet, Jack, then I don't know what else we're going to do. But minus 150, the odds on that one. I have Rory top 20 in round 1 at plus 110. I have Bryson DeChambeau top 10 at plus 115. Daniel Berger over Sung Jae Im at minus 110. Joaquin Niemann to finish 30th or worse at minus 120. And then this one is an interesting one because I think they might both do well, but I still like the guy I took. Bryson DeChambeau over Justin Thomas is minus 175. So I think that'll be interesting. But those are my 6 bets for the week. And let's hope I go 6-0. On to your wild card, Jack. What are we looking at this week?
I have 2, and I'm putting a dime on another because I was just curious. So I have 2
Mm.
real wild cards. One is Sammy Valimaki, top 40 at plus 300. He's done it in 6 of his last 6 starts, excluding the Zurich Classic, you degenerates. Outside of that, he's just really good all across the ball, and I expect that trend to continue. And I have Keith Mitchell, top 20 in round 1. This guy is a baller. I think he's had success at Quail Hollow. I think his drivers looked incredible. I think he comes out with a hot hand at plus 400 to just finish top 20 in ties. I'm taking that. So I love it. I do have a dime on Rico Hoey, top 40 at plus 340. He's number 1 in total driving in the PGA Tour, which no one thinks about. He's looked terrible otherwise. So I'm just hoping the driver can carry him this week.
There you go. I have a fun one as a wild card, and again, Jack mentioned it earlier, but I have for the other side, I have Colin Morikawa to miss the cut at plus 275. There's a reason it's a wild card and not a main one. I almost considered doing the Ludwig Aubert miscut, but he did. I did that same style with where I didn't like Ludwig at the Masters, and then he finished like T12. So Morikawa, I think might struggle a bit with the distances. Do I think he still probably makes the cut? Yeah, like he probably does. But there's a chance that if his irons don't give him a couple shots in the first few rounds, he's like flirting with the cut line, struggling come Friday. So I think that could be interesting. Winners, Jack, who are your pre-year winners and who you
My
got this week?
pre-year winners, I had Rory McIlroy at 11 to 1, which now I think he's hovering. I think on the average is like 475, right around there, 500, somewhere around there. So I had him at 11 to 1 pre-year. You're welcome if you followed along in our pre-year podcast where we predicted that. I had Brooks Koepka 50 to 1, and I had Tiger Woods 125 to 1 or something like that, but obviously that is not pertinent anymore. But the 3 I have in addition to this year, and I did 3, and I know Liam has it as well. I should have done 4 because Tiger's out. But I
Yeah.
have Xander, who's 19 to 1, which feels a little high. Granted, I know Scotty and Rory are in there, number 1 and number 2, but he feels a little high. I have Hideki 38 to 1. I think if he can just show up to the tee and put 4 good rounds well, never mind, that just sounds dumb if I say that out loud. He's actually 45 to 1 looking at my notes. I don't know where 38 came from. And then I have Keith Mitchell 120 to 1. Now, do I think he's going to win? Probably not. Bomber plus success at Quail Hollow, gamble.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like a lot of those picks. Again, if Hideki makes to the tee, I like him. I like him in that as that bet at 45-1. For my winners pre-year, I did Scotty Scheffler. 7.5, I think was the number I got him at. And then I had Tony Finau, who was 100-1, and then Akshay Bhatia, who was 120-1. So both those guys were true, bombs from the top rope. I think they're both right still around that number. So you probably didn't get any boost off of that. I think Scotty is about 400-1.
Yeah. No,
Um,
4-1.
or yeah, 4-1. Sorry, plus 400 was the number I had in my head.
Casinos would be underwater if they were real.
Yeah, 4-1 or like plus 400 on the bets. So those are my three pre-year winners. The ones I picked this week, I liked Bryson DeChambeau, who's 8-1, or maybe 8.25, depending on where you find it. Daniel Berger, who's 75-1, and then I have Dean Burmeister, who's 175-1.
Well, let me pause you. Did you bet Bryson yet? Have you locked in money?
I have not locked in money
Because
yet.
he's 9.5-1 on DraftKings, so you might want to bet there.
All right, let me change that real quick and do the 9.5 then. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So yeah, I usually bet these after the pod. So because I want to be able to change it before, since that's how my brain works. All right. With that though, that is the PGA Championship. It's gonna be a fun week. Hopefully the weather makes it so it's just an extra spicy event as far as what we get out of each of the golfers. But this is a good week to bet some money. So we'll go out there and win some money. And then next week we have the Charles Schwab. Hmm. I know Jack is not excited for the Charles Schwab. So we'll leave you on that one. Have a good one, everybody, and deuces.